Alright y'all, this will be the first intro video. I'm probably going to post, so the last thing I did to this was the coolant hose down here and all these things. Got it running, and lo and behold, when I got back from the test drive, coolant was basically being pumped out and in. Whether it's due to a faulty cap or whether it's due to the fact I'm getting straight oil in my coolant reservoir, it's time for this engine to come out. We're going to pull the engine. We're going to replace the clutch. We're going to replace the head gaskets, get the head serviced. We're going to rebuild this power steering pump. I have the seal kit for that. Obviously, try to get all this oil out of the coolant system. The heater core's clogged. We'll try our best to flush that. It's kind of hard when you don't have running water in the winter time, but I suppose I could probably rig up a way to do that if I really needed to. But anyhow, this is what's going to happen here, and we are going to send it. I think the next series of videos is going to be, I'm going to do a time lapse of me doing the actual work, and then do little updates, and then when it's prudent, I will film myself actually doing the work. I have found when I film, I just hit the stop button. When I film myself, I do work more efficiently because I realize the data airspace, just like this terribly long intro. But here we go, guys. 99 Subaru Legacy. This thing will go for another 200,000 miles after we're done with this service. Booyah. Alright gang, I am officially finally getting started. I did do a little bit more checking around just to make sure that indeed head gaskets are the culprit. It's definitely obvious, but sometimes there might be a seal that is very, not related to the head gaskets. But thinking back, this thing has burnt a little bit of oil, and I know it's been consuming coolant. So anyway, I have to do it. But I'm gonna tear into it here. We've been cleaning up the garage. I do have to clean up this middle part still, but we've got room on the bench here to start setting different parts. I've got room on the top of the car to set stuff. And then basically over the weekend I got it to where I can at least pull this Corvette out. Obviously there's a chair on the car, and this right here is a bunch of clothing I got to get through. But anyways, I wanted to make sure I had another bay operating before I totally disable this thing, because something happens for emergency. It was like stacked with stuff from here all the way back and both all over the car. So now it's at least better. Eventually I'll clean up my tools. Eventually right in this corner here is where all my little screws and bolts. I've got a million different parts and pieces I need to get organized, and then of course eventually get through all this stuff, restack everything over here. Not that you care, but office stuff, we got to go through a bunch of health, wellness stuff, medical equipment. And then anyway, so we are going to get rocking and rolling and just do some time lapses. I'm going to start with the battery, start with obviously the main peripherals. I'll probably get to draining the radiator, maybe take the radiator out by tonight. I want to have at least the main peripherals out, and then I'll start undoing hoses and getting some accessories out of the way. And I'll probably have to pull the intake before I pull the motor, so I'll just plan on that probably. And then yeah, we're gonna pull the motor this time, so I'm gonna try to save the oil. I just changed the oil, so if it's still good, I'm probably gonna save it for the as long as it's obviously really good still. If it's tainted at all, I'll probably put it in the lawnmower or something, I don't know. But it's literally like a week old, or not even a week, like 3 days old. So anyways, it's a super long intro. I'm so sorry for this not to get the show on the road. Let's go to a time lapse. Let's get after it. All right, guys, we got the battery off. We got the throttle cables unhooked. We got the plug wires out. We got the radiator fan assembly out. Upper hose off, lower hose off, air filter box off. Took a couple vacuum lines. I'm gonna start snipping away at little things that are holding me up. Just get everything peeled away. Next thing I'm gonna work on is the front end here. Obviously the AC power steering, whoops, sorry guys. AC power steering pump, alternator, get them off. Like I said, I'll probably just pull the intake. Just might as well figure out my motor mounts. Obviously identify the flywheel bolts, figure out the clutch stuff, how to probably just disconnect the hydraulic line. Anyway, pretty simple, not too bad. It's gonna be really nice working on this thing on an engine stand rather than in the car. Just gonna have it all set up, get the heads off, get them sent out. So this is all in all a decent job. Been dragging my feet getting started on it, but it's going pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and dig into this accessory assembly. All right, guys, just got the alternator, power steering off. The very first part of the video, I thought for some reason the power steering pump pulley was going to be the pivot point, and I forgot that the alternator is the pivot point. Of course, the thing, and then I did notice that there was missing a bolt down here for this lower bolt there. I'm also noticing that there's a missing bolt here. So whoever did this last job didn't do that great, but I think I can get away with removing this entire AC bracket. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna see if I can do that. I know I don't have a lot of ability to move around with this. I'm gonna hit that, and then I'm gonna do my best to just move it out of the way. I'm gonna put a bungee cord on this. And then, I mean, we're ready for the intake to come off after that. So this is going pretty smooth. I've been at it for about an hour and a half. Took a good break there. Probably longer than an hour when probably been 2 hours since I actually started, but took a little break. But yeah, things are going well. I just want to note that I'm going to get myself a sheet of paper so I can start taking notes on what I've been noticing about what I want to make sure I do when I'm going back together, making notes of these missing bolts so I can remember to keep an eye out. And what I've been doing in this particular instance, I'm putting all the bolts back where they go, just finger tight. Not finger tight, but just run it down a few threads. The only drawback is that you know, you may have to mess with them when you're cleaning parts, but instead of having just a big mishmash, I usually kind of put them on a magnetic tray. Even better is having a sectioned out piece of plastic or something. But ultimately, going back together where it goes, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, this might get in your way. Again, the throttle things, I'm just kind of running everything back in and just keeping things simple. These I might catch my arms on, but yeah, pretty cool. I'm really excited, actually. This is going so well, and that power steering had been leaking since I bought it, and I actually have the kit for it. We'll be repairing that. I should have repaired that a long time ago, actually, because it's been leaking down under the timing set. And I am going to go ahead, of course, get the head sent out for cleaning, inspection, put a new timing set in, put a new water pump in, new plugs, probably go with new wires. I noticed right here as well, all my coil outputs are looking great. This one is very corroded / whatever, so I might try to clean that up and then keep that in the back of my mind. You know, that probably needs to replace. And of course, being that there was a bunch of oil in the coolant, obviously I'm gonna have the engine apart. I'm gonna be able to clean where I can. I'm gonna have to find a way to flush the heater core I think I'm gonna try to do that with a little battery powered pump. I would love to get a garden hose hooked up, but it's been way too cold for that. I probably could do that, but I don't want to have a hose running in here and just have a complete mess. So I'm gonna try to figure out a way to flush that. I think the last time I did, I would fill up a big tube of water and then run a small air pressure through it to shove it through. Not too much, but that seemed to work. That's what I'll probably do. So anyway, get this unhooked, get my wiring disconnected, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and pull the intake and call it a night tonight. So I just want to kind of stop and chat a little bit about what I'm doing. This is the second time I've done the heads on a Subaru. I guess it's an EJ25. And this is a past video. And that I did with the engine still in the vehicle. That was extremely difficult to get the heads actually back on, was the most difficult part. But even getting them off, I had to basically lift up the engine and ratchet it this way, ratchet it that way. This time, because my clutch has been shuddering a little bit too, I'm gonna just yank the engine out, replace the clutch, do all the rebuilding, obviously the long block, do that all in the engine stand. It's gonna be so nice. And then drop it in and just, get her done. And then do lots of cleaning up. There's just tons of oil, coolanty oil that was just draining, and I'm actually excited this happened. Oh, I do need to replace this as well. My oil pressure sending unit has been leaking as well. But yeah, I'm excited to get this done because I was sick of driving around knowing that there was so much stuff going on. This is actually a really good vehicle, and I miss being able to drive with my brand new studs. Those of you who aren't from a winter climate, you can have the option to get winter tires with these studs in them and little ice spikes. So I miss zipping around town in this thing. Anyways, I'll get done yapping. Any questions you have at all, just leave in the comments, and hope y'all are doing well. All right, y'all, we got the power steering pump away off to the side. After those two brackets are removed, it comes off to the side really nicely. The AC, I was able to hit those bolts. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and came right out. You gotta be really careful with this line here. So I basically really carefully rolled it over. It's just set in there. I've got it locked in place because this is where you're going to get leaks. And unless you're willing to go somewhere, have the system evacuated, and then literally unbolt this line or unbolt this, whichever, vice versa, it's not necessary. Excuse me. But when we pull the engine, I will have to manipulate this line most likely and sort of get it out of the way. But as you can see, once the intake comes off, you're at this width here, you're here, and then obviously getting back up under get all the bolts and getting the engine disconnected from the transmission will be new for me. I've never pulled that engine out of a Subaru, but as you can see, things are squared away there, and we are making our way. So let's get this intake off. Obviously we've got the actual bolts to the block, but more importantly and more time-consumingly, we've got fuel lines, we've got vacuum lines, we've got electrical connectors. Probably the most pain in the butt lines are going to be these little coolant lines feeding the throttle body and then going back through the idle air control motor, which is what I've tried to replace and get away with just doing that. I'll probably take my the part that I replaced. I'll probably remove that, get it all out of the way so I don't break it. And then, of course, like I said, once I'll probably move my light over here Definitely need a light over here now, so I'll probably get resituated. And thankful to Subaru is very simple. I mean, couldn't be more easy. And there's my starter right there, so I'll have to get that out of the way too. So anyways, let's get after it, guys. Rock and roll. HEQ. And a lot of the sockets I'm using are literally 10 millimeter, 12 millimeter, 14 millimeter. Literally the only sockets I've used so far. So again, with Subaru, wonderful consistency. And I was even able to hit this bolt, which is right underneath the intake, with my, this is my setup that I have. The better setup would be one that you'd buy that's a actual unit, and it would be about this tall rather than this tall, so you'd have that much more coverage. So this is old and bulky, and this is so old, this piece right here. I don't know if you can see it. I mean, this thing is so worn out. It is still getting the job done though, so. All right guys, whoops. Let's get her done. All right, guys, we got the intake off. Of course, there's a bunch of electrical connectors. I ended up removing the EGR valve first and then unscrewing the EGR pipe and then sort of taking the bolts out of the intake, wiggling it forward away from that. And then it was just disconnecting hose from the IAC, getting the hose off of the throttle body. That's where it loops down. Obviously this is going to come off, but really we're basically at a good stopping point. I'm not going to do it tonight, but tomorrow I will remove the thermostat housing. Well, I might do that tonight. It might be good for it to drain overnight, but anyway, it's none of it's a big deal. And then really, of course, getting this crossover pipe removed. Basically, getting the cherry picker over here, getting the motor mounts unhooked, bell housing bolts. I'm gonna have to get through, that's right, I'm gonna have to remove the starter and then get the pressure plate bolts. So just kind of collecting in my memory with everything. But very excited about where we're at, and we're gonna keep going tomorrow. Over now.